Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. So today we have another Tower of God walk up the tower. This time we're starting in Season 2, Episode 41, all the way up to Episode 50. So we start off where it left off with Quantro Blitz being taken down by Viol, and the rest of the team shows up. Now at this moment we see Cheng say that they lost, and he tosses the key back to Wagner. And we see Cheng challenge Bam, and we see something very special about Bam. I won't engage in a meaningless fight. And Cheng says it's true that he only fights weaklings. So yeah, that's Cheng basically trying to aggro Bam into a fight to pull him in. And then we see Wagner open the chamber for the reward at the end of this test. We then see that he has what he needs, and they get snacks as the reward from the test. And we see that they talk about something. A few years ago, my only wish was to pass the 20th floor, and now I'm saying things like someday up in the tower, I've come a long way. And you see Arc Raptor talking to Wagner and saying that they need to slow down and rest a little bit. He's worried about the team morale, the team's fatigue level, because the morale is really high. And we see Wagner saying that they need to push till the 30th floor, then they can rest a little bit. And we see that the thing he's aiming for is the workshop battle in 2 months' time. So we know that this literally is quite a heavy push, and we know that they're quite far up because we know that the floors that lead up to the 30th floor are very few. So right now this is the 28th floor advancement exam, or the 29th. We then get back to Kun, who sees Bam is alive, and he asks to Emily for where Bam is, and it says I don't know. So Kun is looking at this, and he sees that things cost quite a bit with Emily, and he's thinking to himself, who would have said that? And that isn't a lie that anybody who knows Bam would have said. And then he gets a call from his team's scout Apple, who says that they found somebody he's been looking for a long time, the Devil's right arm. And then we see that they found Cassino, who is the Devil's right arm, on the 28th floor in a place called the Hand of Arlen. And all of this is quite a big thing at this point. And then we see that Huryang also sees the same thing. And we see that it snaps with him that this is something important, and he's the one who gives the name Cassino. And we see that Apple and Kun are deciding that they're gonna go and catch him, and that is where episode 41 ends. We'll then move on to the next episode, and things are about to get really, really heated very quickly. Now, what happens is we see the 28th floor residential area where Viol has been staying, and we see that Huryang is explaining his childhood and the fact that they were experiments for the workshop, and out of a large sample of individuals, only 2 of them survived, and that is why they consider each other to be brothers. And the 2 who survived were Cassino and Huryang, but they weren't given names, they were actually just given numbers. Huryang was number 21 and Cassino was number 99. And they continued to grow and develop, and then one day they met a researcher called Masofia, and Masofia is the first love of both of their lives, and is also the person who gave them their names. And basically we find out that Huryang's real name is Ilmar Benuman, and the Devil's right arm is Cassino Benuman. So that is the whole story behind them. And they basically keep it a secret, and they call each other by the names in that room when they are together. Then one day they were wrapped up and taken to another location where a devil was implanted into them. the devil was split in two, and the right was given to Ilma, and the left was given to Cassino. And this is how they became living ignition weapons. So he explains how torturous the feeling was when it was done to him, and he explains that half his body wasn't his anymore. He explains the whole situation as it went down. I know I explained a lot with a very quick statement. And then one day, Ilma was selected to go up the tower by sorry, I'm forgetting his name. First floor guardian. I'm actually forgetting the totals. Hedon showed up, and he pulled him as a regular, and then he climbed up the tower, and he reached the 20th floor, and people were just using him for his power, so he stopped climbing. And then one day he heard of somebody who called themselves the devil's right arm, but he was actually using his left arm. And that is when Ilma decided to start climbing again. So their entire test where they meet him was literally at the same time that he heard about his brother basically being back in the tower. We then see that it's nighttime, and Huryang, as we're going to call him because that's the name he's chosen for himself, goes and he talks to Viol. At this point, he says that he's been looking at to check on Viol to see if he is a living ignition weapon just like him. And after that day, we see Huryang ignite his weapon, and he attacks Viol. That is the end of episode 42. At this point, when he and then we see Huryang fighting Viol, and after he goes at him real seriously, we see that Viol replies that 7 years ago when he first joined Pug, a man said he'll teach him how to be a god, and what he did was he united him with something. It was very similar to the situation that Huryang explained, and as soon as that happened, this thing which he was united with was kept in a special tank, and that is what is a very big source of the power he's using right now. But he can't ignite it, and it's not the same as the one that Ilma is using, and he doesn't know if the experiment was used for him, was done on them for the sake of Fug. And we see Bam admit that what he really wants wasn't power. He already had what he wanted, he just wanted to get back to it. And then we see Huryang explain that he already knew the truth. Even if Viol had something to do with the experiment, he wouldn't sacrifice people for power. He just wanted to make sure before he left. And he says that he needs to go and see what is precious for him, his long lost brother. He needs to go there, and Viol explains it could be a trap. It's something that you need to think about. And then Huryang explains that this is his family. It's the family that he wants, and he needs to go there because this is also his family, and he needs to go and see what's going on. He then leaves, and we see Viol standing there and looking at it, thinking about the whole situation. We then get Kun, Ran, and Novik entering into Arlen's hand to actually go and hunt the devil's right arm. At this point, we see the end of episode 43, and there isn't a lot in terms of the small context at this point, but things are about to heat up. So episode 44 starts off with Viol entering, and he goes in and he doesn't mention that Huryang has left. At this point, they ask where he is, and they explain that and Viol explains that he's going to be out, and he walks onto his room, Finally, we get back to Huryang, who's in the 28th floor in the residential area at the 10th village near Arlen's Hand, and he finds Shia. And she's a lighthouse bearer, and she's selling information on the floor, and she's selling the location to Ilma, and basically the information of where's Casino to Huryang, who's also Ilma. So things get a little bit complicated with the story, and that's the whole story of the situation. At this point, we see Huryang pay for the info, and he starts heading off towards the Hand of Arlen. And as he's moving in, you can see traps are activating and he's fighting. At this point, we trace back to Kun, Ran, and Novik, and they basically wondering what is going on and why he was in this place. And they're looking through the area and they realize they don't have a scout with them, so the two-man formation, the fisherman and the spear bearer, need to play the dual roles, with the light bearer helping them out from a long distance position. We see that Ran goes rushing ahead and smashing all the traps that are ahead of them. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we see Ran meet Huryang, and when he sees it, he basically asks if that is the devil's right arm, and that is the end of episode 44. Now things are about to get really crazy, because this is where things start to shape up very differently. We see that Viol is watching everybody as they get ready, and they thinking about how they're going to meet Huryang's friend, and they're all preparing to basically dress up together. That's the first thing we see. Then we go back to Huryang, who's fighting Ran at this moment, and Ran charges at him and starts fighting, and Huryang explains that he's attacking the wrong person. He's got the mistaken identity for who he is fighting, and he ends up fighting with Ran. Now remember, Ran is quite powerful, one of the top 5 E rank regulars, which makes him really crazy powerful. At this point, we see all of the crazy techniques that are available to him as he's using his devil to change his form, and we see that Novik introduces himself as Novik Grand, and they both start pushing the fight against him. At this point, we see Viol leave his room, and we see that Goa Seng was waiting for Huryang to arrive, and Miseng was also waiting for Mr. Teddy Bear, is how they refer to him, for when he's going to come back. And at that point, we see Viol look at everything, and he thinks about what's going on, and he thinks back to himself, and he realizes he has another group of friends here, and he doesn't need to lose everything all over again. And that's the end of episode 45. So he thinks about it, and he's approached by Arc Raptor, who confronts him about the truth that Huryang left, and Viol says he's going to go and get him back and bring him back to his family. Then we see Viol leave, and we see Arc Raptor is just standing there wondering what to do. We then see Wagnan is there and says they're going to chase after him. We then see Prince is also there, saying that he was waiting to welcome back Huryang. And then we see Yiwa is also here, and she's also showed up. The whole gang is getting together and getting ready to chase after. We then get a flashback to Arlen's Hand, and we see that Kun's team was weirdly not around. Gawateng, their second spear bearer, came down with the bird flu, and his response was that he's sick. Then we see that Michael said that he has to take care of Gayateng. And lastly, Dan said He's in charge of Rachel on the day, so he can't go. At this point, we see Kun being attacked from the back by a surprise hit, and the two, Novik and Ran, are busy fighting with Huryang. And this is very important to note on the power levels. How powerful each person is actually highlighted big time by what they're doing in this short little clip. At this point, Cassino screams Ilma to Huryang, and he instantly hears the sound, and he's told to look behind him and follow the observer. At which point he starts running, and the other two start running into all the traps. At which point Cassino reaches a dead end, and Ran and Novik are attacking him once again. At this point, the devil's right arm that they're looking for shows himself. So Cassino is here, and then they realize they're caught in a trap when Kun sees that his lighthouse has been hacked. And that is the end of episode 46. Then we get to episode 47, where the attack that we saw starting in the last episode hits, and it looks like it's killed Kun. At that point, we just see Kun fall over. Then we go back to the tent village at Xia Xia's lighthouse, and we see Viol hire her to find the devil's right arm, and basically is pushing for it to go through. At this point, we see everybody is inside the hand of Alan, and Cassino is standing over, and he hops down to get into the fight with the other two. He knocks Ran back instantly, and then he ends up engaging Novik, who is also easily disposed of by him. Then we go back to Kun, who's been knocked out by some type of an assassin, and the assassin wakes up right next to him, looking at him, and basically he thought that Kun would be stronger, and that he's been paid a lot of money just to kill this guy, and sorry about that. As he gets closer, Kun shows that he's actually alive, and this guy gets absolutely dumbfounded, and Kun reveals that he has an armor inventory on himself, which is something really crazy. Then he grabs the guy from the back and stabs him, and he explains that he isn't a light bearer because he's weak, because most light bearers are quite weak, but he's a light bearer because he likes to control people. And then he questions him why he's doing this here, and basically interrogates the snake guy, and the snake guy says someone paid him to kill him, and then he just kills the guy anyway. And then we see they back inside the hand of Alan. It's Cassino and Ilma, and they're busy with each other in quite a heavy situation. Ran decides to take up the position where he's most powerful in the form of a spear bearer, and he tells Novik to play the front role of fisherman, which is actually where the Grand family is stronger. So here are the realities behind it. The Grand family is the same family that has the Ha family blood in it, but they also have Ari family blood in them. So they have dual family power. They're from the same family as Jinsung Ha. So yeah, there is something crazy to think about in the situation. So Novik takes the front, and he uses Crimson Soul Fist, which is one of their special techniques from the Grand family. Then Kun uses one of his special techniques from his family, the Marshni style lightning spear, and he uses it and he fires it at Ilma instantly. Then we see episode 47 ends with Bam and Xia Xia hearing the fight inside. Then we see Xia Xia trying to slow down Bam, igniting traps, and then we see Bam just grab her and fly off. And this is something important to note, because Xia Xia was hired by Fug for a particular purpose in this particular scene. Then we see Kun busy sorting out his lighthouse, trying to figure out who hacked him, and we see the fight going on inside, where Ilma is screaming over Cassino because he thinks Cassino is dead. And Ran basically explains that he can't be alive after taking that hit through the chest. At that point, Ilma ignites his devil, and they start fighting. And at this point, we see that Ilma is really quite powerful. We see them fighting quite hard, and with everything they're doing, things go crazy. At which point, they really are getting the upper hand on Ilma, but it really shows that things are crazy. And we see Ran play one of his crazy tricks for a second time. And as Novik is about to hit Húrjang, we see that Apple was responsible for the treachery that Khun suffered, and all of a sudden we see Húrjang gets hit from the back by Cassino with the devil, and basically he knocks him down at that moment. And basically this whole trap has been triggered. Seeing this here, all of a sudden Viol looks at them and he asks, why did they kill Mr. Húrjang? And he says, what have you done to Húrjang? And at this point we see Khun realizes that he was betrayed by his team members, and he's wondering what is going on here, and that is the end of episode 48. So we're getting on to episode 49. Things are about to heat up quite quickly. We see Húrjang is down on the floor, basically almost dead, and Viol has entered into the picture. We see Xia lying to Viol, saying that he's dead, and Viol asks if Ran and Novik are the ones who killed him. And at that point Novik just says, you know what, we killed him, so what? At which point Viol rushes in and he just hits him instantly with one of his wave control assaults, and he takes down both Novik and Ran at the same time. They then say that they are the most the most optimized two-man combination, a light bearer and wave controller. And the fact that Viol used 3 Bang to take them down makes them worry that he might be one of the very strong wave controllers on this level, and they start rushing in to fight him again. At which point Bam uses full power at 5 Bang, and they wonder if there's anybody who was supposed to be that strong amongst the E-rank regulars, and they explain there are fewer than 10 wave controllers who can control more than 3 bangs. And this is something very important. This here is also another highlight of how overpowered Bam is. Remember, they just said there are no more than 10 people in this league. That means Bam is part of a league of 11 people, and that makes him crazy powerful. He's at ranker levels. Then we see that Novik goes in and he charges with the Crimson Soul Fist against Viol, and we see Ran tries Spear of Lightning against Viol, at which point he uses his wave control amplification with the lighthouse to block the assault, and then he blasts them again with the Shinsu, at which point they both totally knocked down. And Viol asks, why did you kill him? He had people waiting. And Novik at this point says that they did fight him, but they didn't kill him. It wasn't them. The other devil's right arm, he's behind that fallen wall. He killed him, and you'll see him if you go through the rubble. At which point Xia tries to lie and says that she saw them kill him with the lighthouse. And at that point we see Khun enter the room. That is the end of 49. Then we get episode 50 and we see Khun enters, and Viol sees Khun and he instantly remembers that this is one of his precious friends. And Xia reveals that if anybody steps aside, she'll blow this whole place up, and that there's a bomb installed in here. We then see that she's threatening Viol with the fact that she uses the name Slayer nominee Jovial Grace. So basically Fug is interfering with what he's doing. At which point we see Casino jump out, and he's being given instructions through the lighthouse. And they explain that Jovial Grace is going to be the next Slayer, and that this is what is planned for him. And basically they explain that Viol is there to kill Kun Aguero Agnes. We then see Viol get real angry because this is one of his friends. And we see Viol play a bluff, and he says he tried to kill him, that the trap was laid for him, but he's changed his mind after seeing him. He seeks an embodiment of greater fear. He would enjoy seeing him run away in fear more. It will be merciful this time and let him go for amusement. And basically inside you can see Bam screaming, "Run, Kun," and that he won't be able to go back after this because their paths will never cross again. And at this point Kun calls him out on his bluff, and he says you need more practice to act like an evil person, because that was a real bad act, and it's obvious to him that it's an act, and that he's trying to let him go on purpose. At this point Viol is wondering what can he do, and he just says he meant what he said. At that moment Novik and Ran shoot the detonator out of Xiaxia's hand, and all of a sudden we see reverse flow control is applied to Novik, and that is Bam once again who applies it, and Xiaxia grabs her detonator and she blows the entire place up, at which point Viol pulls everybody out and he says Mr. Kun the way he used to, at which point Kun realizes that is Bam. The whole hand of Arlen blows up, and that is where episode 50 ends. So that is about it, and you have to understand why this is so important. Remember Karaka, who arrived earlier? He basically said that he had people in place to take over everything and take over the situation with Bam. The whole idea with all of this was it's a trap. He wants to force Bam to follow his path so that he can use Bam as a weapon instead of Bam becoming a slayer. Because Bam isn't a willful slayer, he's being forced to be a slayer by Fug. And later on things do change, but at this moment things are really not in the favor of Fug. So yeah, that was the whole thing about this here. We get to see that Fug is playing a bit dirty. We see Fug as a bad guy at this point, but things do change later on in the story, and we have to keep looking at these things as they move forward. So I hope that you all did enjoy this chapter. I will catch you all in the next one, and have a great day.